I am going to talk about my summer TBR today. R. R. My summer TBR. Life is about making dumb jokes with yourself that only you find funny. And it's even funnier because I am specifically not going to read anything about pirates. I just finished writing my senior thesis about Treasure Island, so no pirates. I need a break. I have this little ceramic dish that me and I think my cousins did some parts of it, my aunt with blueberries, and then with a vintage teacup of matcha. Can you see it? It's just barely. Mm. I don't think this is vintage. I hope it's not because I have a bunch of vintage teacups and I want to test them for lead. I don't think that one's vintage though, so that's why I'm using it. Okay, so my summer TBR are I even though I'm filming this at the end of June, but I still have a lot of summer left, people, okay? Summer ends in September, the end of September, according to me. According to me. So for my TBR, I kind of categorized it into different things because part of the reason why I there's a lot of books that I want to read for inspiration for my own writing because I'm a writer, guys. I'm a writer. um, and so I have little categories, and so we're just gonna go down the categories. I don't know what order I'm gonna read these books or what. Right now, I'm reading two books that I'm gonna include because why not? First one is this woman's work. It's about ancient women, doing like textile work. It's very interesting. I love the introduction chapter, like a lot. Or was it the intro? I don't know. I really like the beginning, but I'm kind of just getting a little bored right now. It's nonfiction, historical about ancient people, like super interesting, but reading about it in like this 300-page book, I'm a little bored. I'll admit it. I'll admit it. I'm not. I really I like history, but I'm not like a big ancient history person. Like I like it, but anyway, yeah. And then I'm also reading Straw Dogs of the Universe on my Kindle. I got it from Libby from the library. That book is one my dad recommended to me as a very beautiful book. That's also very sad. It's about the Chinese immigrants during the kind of like gold rush and building the railroad in California. And so I am reading that book. I'm like halfway through, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, but it's very beautifully written, and I really like the characters. Like the characters just feel very like real, and you just feel for them. It's a good book. Oh, speaking of, if we're gonna go on the genre of Chinese immigrants to California in like the mid to later half of the century of the 19th century, if we're going to go in that category, I do want to read How Much of These Hills is Gold. That's something that it's funny. When I was doing my thesis, one of the other people doing a literature thesis was doing it on that book. And then I found out, and I didn't know that it was about, the Chinese immigrants to California, but I've always wanted to like read more about the gold rush. I feel like it could be it's untapped potential in like media, like historical media. Like I'm sure like there's a lot of like westerns I think about the gold rush maybe, but like not like most media. Like when you have historical media, I haven't really seen anything that takes place during the gold rush, but it's so interesting. Oh, and another reason why I want to read How Much of These Hills is Gold is because is I think I heard, I don't know if this is true, that it's inspiration for the new Ang Lee movie because he's making a movie about um, Chinese immigrants in the gold rush and building the railroad. So, okay, next I pulled a few books off from my shelf. Most of the books that I want to read, though, are unfortunately not ones I own, which sucks because sometimes, the library doesn't have them and I don't want to buy books, but whatever. Let's do fairy tale genre because that's the first one I have right here. So this one is The Fairy Tellers by Nicholas Jubber. It is a book, nonfiction book about the people who kind of shared, wrote down, were a part of, or inspired maybe like fairy tales and like children's literature things. Like I'm sure the Grimm brothers are in here, and Hans Christian Andersen, like those kind of people, the fairy tellers. And this is a book I actually started. Like I'm sure I have a bookmark in here. But this one is one I actually started to read. But I have a horrible habit. Which is might happen with this book. This book, which is that I start reading nonfiction books and then I just stop. Something about nonfiction, I have a hard time just continuing. Like I'll find it really interesting when I'm reading it, but I don't know. I want to work on that though because I like learning things. So yeah, this is just seems really interesting. Oh, the reason why I didn't even explain the fairy tale category is that I do have an idea for a novel about that's like a fairy tale retelling that I kind of wanted to be both dealing with the fairy tale itself and the kind of idea of fairy tales being shared. I'm still trying to prioritize, and I'm sorry I'm eating blueberries right now. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm still like prioritizing my main novel that I'm writing, which is not this fairy tale retelling, but I'm thinking about the fairy tale retelling. Like my thinking cap is on. My Goodreads is open on my laptop, so if I'm looking back there, that's what that's for. But the other fairy tale book in the fairy tale genre is The Bloody Chamber and Other Stories by Angela Carter. I don't have a physical copy right now, but I think my dad has one. So it's it's like I think they're like kind of more darker, maybe feminist retellings of fairy tales, which love love dark things. I love feminist things, so that'd be interesting. And I don't remember why, but I've always felt an urge, like a need to read Angela Carter. I don't remember anything else she's written, but there's something there where I feel like I need to read her. Okay, next I have two books in one category, and I have both the physical copies of the books in this category, so that's cool. But this category is short story collections, because I'm like to write short stories. I don't feel like I'm very good at it though, and it's always helpful to have inspiration. And so these two books were just, I was talking to someone once about how I wanted to read more short stories, so I had more inspiration to write short stories. Um, and she recommended me these two books, and I bought them like a few months later. I was like, okay. Um, this first one, let's do this one, is Belly Up by Rita Bullwinkle. It's about ghosts, mediums, a lover obsessed with the sound of harps tuning, teenage girls who believe they are actually plants, gulag prisoners who outsmart a terrible warden, and carnivorous churches. That makes me want to read it, just that. And yeah. This other one, Fruiting Bodies, is it's stories that beckon and haunt. Gothic, uncanny, fantastical, mostly queer woman, mostly queer, mostly women on the precipice, precipice of change. That also makes me want to read this. Like, don't you want to read this? Yeah. Okay. The next category is fantasy. I love fantasy. It's near and dear to my heart, and it's probably my most read genre. It's the genre of my novel. Yeah. But okay, so the first one on my list is called What the River Knows. I actually have it checked out from the library right now. I should start reading it since people might be waiting on it. But it's I heard about it because I saw fan art for it on Pinterest. Yeah. And it's supposed to have the mummy vibes, I think. Unless if I'm getting it confused with something else, but I I sometimes just go into books not knowing a lot because I don't like spoilers, and I feel like what makes me enjoy a book is so subjective and it can't be neatly described. So anyway, I don't go into books knowing a lot, which is kind of silly because it means I don't have a lot to talk about. But I'm still blabbing. I'm still blabbing. So let's continue on. Another book I want to read is The Name of the Wind. I've never read it. Never read. But it's one of my dad's favorite fantasy books. It might be his favorite. He might like it more than Game of Thrones, but I don't know if I'm gonna like it more than Game of Thrones. Anyway, I want to read it, and I've just been saving it because I feel like it's been so hyped. It's been so hyped for me from my father, from other people I like on the internet and stuff like that. But I should read it. I should read it. I don't even know what it's about, but it's a fantasy book. That's what I know. Um, Next, I want to read The Lady of the Lake. I don't remember the author's name because I'm sure there's multiple books called The Lady of the Lake. um, it's not Sir Walter Scott. It's not that one. It's a queer retelling of The Lady of the Lake that focuses on the Lady of the Lake and um, like Morgan Le Fay. I always just want to say Morgana. Merlin, the BBC Merlin just ruined me for Arthurian stuff because like Gawain, the Sir Gawain, I think that's how you say his name. I always want to say Gawain because that's what they called in the BBC Merlin show, but it's not Gawain. And it's I don't think it's Morgana. I don't know. Anyway, I want to read more books and things about the Lady of the Lake. I think she's interesting, specifically because I read one book that was about her, sort of. I'm not gonna say what, but I want to read more books about the Lady of the Lake. I know there's I think there's like a graphic novel maybe or like a book that has just illustrations in it that is about the Lady of the Lake, and I think they turned it into a Netflix show too, but it didn't get good reviews, so I don't know if I'm gonna read that, but I don't know. I'm interested in her. Next fantasy book that I want to read is The King of Elfland's Daughter, which is an older fantasy book. I think it was maybe even written before Lord of the Rings. And I've heard it has like really beautiful prose. That's the main reason I want to read it. I like pretty prose. And it's like a classic. I'm writing a fantasy novel. I should know the classics. Okay. The other last fantasy book I want to read is kind of different because it's an anthology. It's called Magic Has No Borders, a young adult fantasy anthology reimagining South Asian legends and epics. That sounds so cool. I love learning about different legends and epics and, kind of mythology, fairy tales. I just older stories. I love, and I love learning about ones that I don't know about because I don't think I know any South Asian ones. No, I don't. And yeah, it seems cool. Okay, so the next category is going to be like literary fiction, classics. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to label things. I want to say classics, but I don't know if everyone would consider all these classics. I think so. Anyway, first one is the one I own, which is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Marquez. Ma- anyway, um, this book I did start to read, but I stopped because I'm an English major. I'm an English major. There's something about reading classics when I'm in the throes of being an English major, or even the summer between being an English major. Maybe I shouldn't even have a classics category in here for my summer TBR because I have graduated. I have graduated, so no more being forced to read classics. So maybe this should just be in the fall when I'm, a little break, taking a break. But I've started talking about it. I'm gonna keep starting. Why do I want to read this? I think it's cool that it's told through multiple generations. I liked it what I read so far. I just, yeah, I want to read magical realism. What else? Okay, another book I want to read is As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner. Is his name William? I don't know, but his last name's Faulkner. Faulkner. I had had an urge to read William Faulkner. It was like Angela Carter, where there was something I read that made him sound intriguing to me, and I was like, oh, I should read one of his books. And then I forgot what that was. But then, after that urge had already been cemented in me, I took a class where we read this one book called The Gathering, that is kind of inspired by, similar to As I Lay Dying. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting premise because I learned about the premise of As I Lay Dying, which is that if I can remember it, there's someone who died and they're taking the body to be buried, or I don't know, something. They're moving a dead body, I think. I don't remember the specifics, and I think it's in the South. That's what Faulkner does, right? Yeah. um, there's something cool about the perspective. It's from the perspective of the dead person. It's from multiple people's from perspective. I don't remember exactly, but anywho, I'm. It's still on my list, but I've kind of forgotten what it's about. What are the other classics? Oh, another one is Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon. I need to learn how to say people's names. Oh my god. I'm sorry, people. Um, but yeah, Gravity's Rainbow. I read another one of his books, The Crying of Lot 49, and I loved it so much. I loved it so much. It was so weird. It was so weird and confusing. But yeah, so I'm ready to get into a, because I know his books. Pinchin. His books are long and convoluted and crazy. But I've read one of his shorter books, so I'm ready to graduate into a bigger book. I mean, I have my degree in English literature. I shouldn't be scared of books, but I am a little. I'm a little. Some books intimidate me, like Les Mis. That's a classic, another classic I want to read, but it intimidates me. It's really long. Anyway, I think that's it for like the lit fit fic classics category. Next is, I'm just gonna call it nonfiction to help me with my fantasy novel. It's a bit all over the place. We're gonna start with this one that I own, which is Tolkien on Fairy Stories. I also want to read this one because I really want to write an essay someday. Someday, I want to write an essay about comparing Game of Thrones to Lord of the Rings, which is gonna be a big endeavor because I want to reread all the books. That's a lot of books. That's a lot of books. But people are always pitting Tolkien and George R. R. Martin against each other, and people like it's like I like both, you know, and I'm just interested in exploring how they compare. But anyway, so I feel like I do want to read Tolkien's what he thinks of why he writes fairy stories, why he fantasy, you know. Um, and I love this cover, but yeah, I'm also just interested in hearing about his perspective on why we write fairy stories. Because I'm writing a fantasy novel. Like to hear why he thinks we write these things. And I'm getting a little tired, so I'm sorry if I start to not make any sense. Okay, I just pulled up my thrift books order because the other two books in this category are on their way to me. So the first one is Folklore and Symbolism of Flowers, Plants, and Trees. I in my book there's some magic going on, some using nature, making potions, and I don't have a good sense of like I want to have like a sense of what people use plants for because I don't really know. Don't really know. The other one is called Trickster Makes This World: Mischief, Myth, and Art. Cool. I love a trickster character. I mean, do you see that? My favorite animal are foxes, and foxes are very tricky, right? They're tricksters, like coyotes. I also love coyotes. And I what was I talking about? Oh, the main character, not the main character, one of the characters in my novel is sort of, I want to make her a bit trickstery. I don't know how much of a trickster she is, but I don't know. I would love to draw on some tricksters for her character. Okay, next we're at the last category, which is what am I gonna call? I don't even have a name for it. I don't even have a name for it, but I know these two books belong to each other, and that's not just because they have a shared word in the title. Maybe it is because I have a shared word in the title, but I want to read Women Who Run with Wolves, which is kind of a popular book, I think. I don't know what it's about, but it sounds cool. I like the title. It's popular. That's all I need to read things sometimes, guys. Sometimes. Okay. And then the next book in this category is When Women Were Birds, which there's a little piece of writing by this author that I've read that I really like. It's really cool. And I read it in my creative writing class, and my creative writing professor was talking about this author and talking about the things she does, and mentioned this book When Women Were Birds, and I was like, that sounds so cool, and I love that title. Good title, man. And I did look up the synopsis, and it's about this. The author is finds her mother's or her mother. The mother of the author told her when she was that, like, to protect or something, to like keep these journals that she has. And when the mother dies, the author looks at the journals and they're like totally empty, and it's just like, what? And so the author imagines what could be in those journals, which, that sounds so cool. Doesn't that sound so cool? And that's my TBR. That's my TBR. I don't know. Okay, the next book I'm gonna read, probably after I finish Straw Dogs of the Universe, is What the River Knows. I need a little bit more lighthearted fantasy, and that's what my soul is craving. Um, Anything else I want to mention? I also want to mention I've been on a for like this 2020. What year is it? 2026. I've been reading a lot of historical romances, and they're very enjoyable. But I don't have any lined up for me to read right now. There is one. I read this one that is in like a series, and I kind of want to read another book in the series, but I don't know. I feel like I need to slow my roll on historical romances, diversify a bit. Yeah, if you watch this far, then that's crazy. And I want to start saying this is going to be my thing. Is that if you watch this far, then I owe you my unborn child, because I'm so grateful. That would be crazy if you watch this far. I feel like I have to give you something, you know?